Hello friends, I'm glad you're back. Now we're going to continue in 6-1. It's our last video in this series of 4. We're going to talk about degrees, minutes, seconds as a unit. So one way that we measure angles, we just say degrees and we round to whatever decimal places. Degrees, minutes, seconds is a more formal unit of measure or more precise unit of measure. It's a little bit antiquated, but there are still some professions that use degree, minute, seconds as a unit. And it's mostly useful measuring things geographically. So let's define what a degree and a minute and a second are. So we've got a degree symbol, we have an apostrophe for minutes, and then a quotation mark or 2 apostrophes for seconds. So a second is 1/60th of a minute, and a minute is 1/60th of a degree. Or you could even say that 60 seconds equals 1 minute, and 60 minutes equals 1 degree. Either work, it's just a different way of thinking about it. So if we want to convert 5 degrees, 42 minutes, and 30 seconds to a regular decimal degree notation that we are more familiar with, the way we would set that up is that's the same as saying 5 degrees plus 42 minutes plus 30 seconds. So I'm going to convert seconds into minutes, add those together. I'll have a minute value. And then I'll convert my minutes to degrees and add them together, and that will give me a decimal degree notation. So one thing we know is we have 30 seconds. And 30 seconds, if I take that and multiply by 1 minute for 60 seconds, that's going to give me half of a minute. So here I have 5 degrees plus 42 minutes plus half of a minute. So that is 5 degrees plus 42.5 minutes. Further, let's take that 42.5 minutes. So thinking about multiplying, I want to turn it into degrees. 1 degree is equal to 60 minutes. So that allows me to create this unit fraction. 42.5 over 60 is 0.7083, and then that 3 is repeating. So see, I don't have an exact way to write this value, but over here, my degrees, minutes, seconds, I wrote it exactly without having to round anything. So I'm going to write that over here on my paper. I have 5 degrees plus, we said 42 minutes was equal to 0.7 essentially degrees. So that's 0.708 repeating 3 degrees. And this is the same as 5.708 3 degrees. So in this example, we converted degrees, minutes, second notation into a decimal degree notation. And so when you get into some word problems dealing with geography or measuring distances, even like thinking about a map and distances on a map, you're going to see those degree, minutes, seconds, and you want to know how to deal with them. All right, moving forward, we're going to find a couple values using our calculator. Now, you'll notice we have degrees, and then we have degrees, minutes, seconds. We also have degrees. This is a reciprocal function. One thing I want you to know is your calculator has a mode button. I'd like you to pull out your TI, 83, 84, whatever you're using, and press the mode button. So once you press the mode button, a couple spaces down, you're going to see a line where it says radian or degree. And most likely there's a dark box around radian in your calculator. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to be in degree mode. And in this class, we're going to switch back and forth, but you're going to arrow down, highlight degree mode, hit enter, and then that will become dark. So as long as you're in degree mode, it's pretty easy to type these values in. So if I were to type in my calculator, and I'm going to do it right now, sine of 26.1, and I am in degree mode, the answer I get as an output is 0.4399. It's actually 391699, but we'll round that right there. So we can find these function values on our calculator. We can type degrees, minutes, and seconds into our calculator. I'd like to talk about using your calculator for that. Again, you need to be in degree mode. For example, be here for 74 degrees, 30 minutes, and 15 seconds. When we talk about finding that, or finding the symbols we need to type minutes and seconds, the minutes and the degree symbol, they show up if you hit second and then the button that says apps, or above it, it says angle. So you guys have on your calculator a button somewhere that says apps, and above it, it says angle, as well as a capital B. So you want to hit second to choose that angle option. And right away, you'll notice the first option you'll see on your calculator screen, 1 with a degree symbol, then you'll see 2 with a minutes symbol. So that's where you get degrees and minutes, under that angle option. And then the quotation mark that you get for seconds, that is a button directly on your calculator. It's above the plus sign. So if you look at your button on the calculator that says plus, above it in blue, and the buttons could be different colors, but above it in blue it says memory, and then you see that quotation in green. So in order to get this quotation, you'll have to hit alpha. Hit the alpha button to choose that option, and then plus. So to type this in my calculator, I'm going to type 74, and then I'm going to go second, choose my angle option above apps, choose my degree symbol, then I would type 30, we would go in again, second angle, choose my minute, 5, and then I'm going to hit alpha plus. That's going to give me my second symbol. Typing that into my calculator, my output value, and you guys should check and make sure you can do this, the output is 0.2672150169. So that's what we get typing it into the calculator. All right, there are lots of YouTube videos. You can probably find one that would walk you through it, but I talked you through the key commands. So, if you're not certain or you didn't quite catch that, just pause, rewind, go through it again. All right, and then we don't need to erase that. I'll shorten it. And then for cosecant, how am I going to type cosecant in the calculator? So if you look, your calculator has a sine option, we have a cosine option, and we have a tangent option. And above those, you'll see they all have the same thing written with a -1. So tan to the -1, cosine to the -1, sine to the -1. Now those -1s, you may remember from algebra, -1 means to us in math, it's notation for an inverse. And sine inverse is different than the reciprocal function of sine, which is cosecant. Okay, so don't use the inverse button. You have to think about your definition. And how do we relate cosecant to sine? Well, what we know, and we talked about previously, we said that cosecant, CSC, cosecant of some angle is the same as 1 over sine of that angle. So, by definition, this would be the same as 1 over the sine of 70. And that I can type into my calculator. If I don't have that fraction mode initiated, then I'm going to need to make sure I'm using parentheses, make sure things are grouped and closed properly. The calculator will do all the correct calculations as long as you type what you want in there correctly. So 1 over the sine of 70 in degree mode, remember talking about your mode, we've got 1.06417. 1.06417. You actually get 4 sevens and then a 2. All right, so that's how we can type things into our calculator. And so briefly, we're going to talk far more about inverse functions in the future, but inverse trig functions. So because I mentioned them when we were talking about cosecant, I like to bring them in here. So we want to note here that sine, cosine, tangent, these are operations that we're applying to an angle. Just like when we add, the inverse operation is to subtract. So if we move something to the other side of the equation, we use that inverse operation. So consider if we had sine of theta equals 1/2. And I said, well, this is our question. The sine of what angle is going to measure as 1/2? Right? The sine of what angle measure is equal to 1/2. And because we have memorized those 9 values in our chart, we know what the answer is. We know that this is going to be theta equals 30 because this is a value from our table. Sine of theta is equal to 30. But here, maybe we need to solve sine of theta equals 0.3695. That's not a value I know off the top of my head. So again, because sine is an operation, we don't divide on both sides times sine. This isn't sine times theta. This is sine of theta. So it's an operation we're applying to theta. So when I move sine to the other side of the equation, I'm going to use that inverse operation. In this situation, I'm going to end up with theta equals sine inverse of 0.3695. And that I can easily type into my calculator. Make sure you're in degree mode because we're going to want a degree output for our answer. But you're going to find that theta is approximately 21.68. You get 6847843, but I'll round to 2 decimal places. And we'll get an approximate value here for my theta. Similarly, I can do the same thing with cotangent theta, but again, I don't have a cotangent inverse button. I only have tangent inverse. So we need to think about how we can rewrite this. One thing we know is that cotangent of anything is equal to 1 over tangent, or rather tangent is equal to 1 over cotangent, right? So tangent theta is 1 over cotangent theta. That's a reciprocal identity. We know what cotangent theta is, so this gives us tangent theta is 1 over the value 1.146, right? Cotangent theta is equal to that value. So now we can say theta is tangent inverse of 1.146. The output that my calculator gives me is that theta is 41.11 degrees. All right, so we have a little hodgepodge crammed in here at the end of this video. We talked about degrees, minutes, seconds. We talked about using our calculator to find trig function values. And then we also talked about using our inverse trig buttons on the calculator. As always, email me if you have any questions.